All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty timeless lesson in leadership, but we're going to do it through the story of a kingdom that was right on the edge of collapse and the young woman who would change its fate.
So, it really makes you think, right? What does it actually take to lead when everything seems to be falling apart? To get to the bottom of that, we're going to journey to the kingdom of Aleria, a land that had kind of forgotten its own strength.
So, let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in Illyria. Just picture a kingdom, nestled behind these beautiful rolling hills and quiet rivers, a place that used to be pretty prosperous.
Now, Aleria wasn't famous for being rich or powerful. Nope. Its reputation was built on the fairness of its rulers and the deep sense of peace among its people. For generations, it really thrived.
But you know how these stories go. That golden age, well, it didn't last. The royal family started to fade, and not because of a war or some big disaster, but because of problems from within. Things like fear and pride and a whole string of bad choices made them choose comfort over responsibility.
And that brings us to our first part, the last princess. This is where we see that really, true leadership isn't about the title you hold, it's about the actions you take.
Things got so bad that eventually there was only one royal left, a young woman named Princess Alara. The entire weight of this crumbling legacy? It landed right on her shoulders.
By this point, the people had lost all hope. You could just hear the whispers echoing through the old, cracked palace halls, a constant reminder that everyone thought it was over.
And here's where things get really interesting. You've got this incredible contrast. On one hand, the crown, the ultimate symbol of power, is literally just sitting in a box, collecting dust. But on the other hand, you have Alara. She was out there with her people, actually listening to farmers, teaching kids how to read, fixing broken wells with her own two hands. She was leading through service, not from a throne.
And it was that dedication, that hands-on approach, that really prepared her for what was about to happen next. Which brings us to the storm of change. You've probably heard the saying that a crisis doesn't build character, it just reveals it. Well, that's exactly what's about to happen here.
And bam, just like that, the crisis arrived. A huge, relentless storm slammed into the kingdom, threatening to just wash away whatever little they had left.
The impact was immediate, and it was devastating. First, the river just completely overflows. Then, the fields are ruined. And what happens next? Fear. It spreads even faster than the water. The whole kingdom was on the verge of total collapse.
But in that moment of absolute desperation, something truly amazing happened. For the first time in years, the people ran to the palace, and they weren't looking for money or some royal decree. No, they were searching for something way more valuable: hope.
And right then, in the middle of all the chaos, Alara stood right there in front of them. She didn't offer a bunch of empty promises. Instead, she offered pure resolve with these words. And it marked a huge turning point, not just for her, but for all of Aleria.
With those words, she wasn't a princess anymore. She became a leader in action. And this next part really shows us that leadership isn't measured by what you say you're going to do, but by what you actually do.
And her actions? Man, they spoke so much louder than any decree ever could. She wasn't commanding from some safe distance. No, she was right there in the middle of it all, organizing shelters, making sure food was shared fairly, making tough calls with total honesty, and working day and night right alongside her people.
And because of what she did, how the people saw her completely changed. The title princess just kind of faded into the background. What they saw now was a leader, a real one.
This whole transformation, it all leads to her becoming the first true queen, a leader who would go on to completely redefine what wearing a crown even means.
So, months later, after all the rebuilding, the kingdom's elders come to formally crown her. But Alara, she just gently takes the crown off. And with that one simple move and these powerful words, she lays out her entire philosophy. Power isn't in some golden object, it's in the strength of the community.
What Alara ended up building was a totally new kind of sovereignty. Alara wasn't a place that was haunted by its past anymore. Instead, it became a kingdom defined by a shared responsibility for its own future.
And so her story really comes full circle. The title she was stuck with during the decline, the last princess, it was completely overshadowed by the legacy she built. History wouldn't remember her for what she inherited, but for what she created.
And so, Alara's story leaves all of us with a pretty fundamental question to think about. What truly defines a leader? Is it the crown on their head, or is it the community they build with their own two hands?